welcome to the Warner Brothas podcast. My name is Keenan, joined by my brother Kyle, as always. Again, video. It's crazy to see us. Kyle, how's it going?
It's great. It's great. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm in Fort Myers, about 3 hours away from where I actually stay. I'm working at a renovation at Dick's, so we're working on that.
Interesting. So,
Yes.
So you're working on the renovation? You're not even doing like sales or anything like that?
So we're not like taking apart and like putting things up. They have like a contracting company with that. So what we're doing right now is it's a footwear stockroom renovation thing. So we're taking all the shoes from their upstairs bay, moving them downstairs, and we are locating them in the certain bays, putting kids with kids, women's with women's, cleats, whelps, so on and so forth. And then we're taking the shoes and things that they had on the floor off of the floor, and from there, basically just doing a big reorganization this week. And then next week, once the floor is completely set up and built, we're planning on, I won't be here for this part. Eli's actually coming down. They're going to be setting up the entire floor to how the floor should look for moving forward.
Interesting. So are you receiving a bonus for this or any sort of stipend?
Yes and no. So I'm getting my hotel paid for, I get travel paid for, I get food paid for. So and I get my travel hours paid for to and from home. So like 5 hours, so kind of getting extra. So I get 5 to 6 hours ish, depending on how long it takes to get back. And that's like hourly. Then I get paid, I think they said like 62.5 cents a mile. I think I get $75 a day for food, and they provide me lunch at Dick's already, so I only have to pay for like dinner and other things. Yeah, right. And then obviously I'm getting paid my hourly wage from being there. So and then the hotel's completely paid for, and that comes with a continental breakfast. So essentially I'm getting $75 for dinner and drinks and other things that I have.
Not bad.
It's real.
Not bad.
It's not bad at all. I'm really making more money doing a fine job. It's actually great.
Hey, well, congrats. That sounds like a pretty good time.
Yes, and I haven't actually asked you about this car. How is it updated?
The car is it's progressing. It's listen, it could have been really bad for me, or it could have been just like an unfortunate situation, which it still kind of is, but
yeah,
it's trending in a really good direction for me.
Good.
Yeah, getting a free engine replacement, so that's okay.
Okay.
Recalls are kind of a lifesaver. So, yeah. So everything's kind of on the up and up there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So let's not beat around the bush. Do you want to start with Sunday and go backwards, or do you want to just touch on the entire weekend for All-Star Weekend, obviously?
Let's touch on the entire weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking NBA All-Star Weekend. I just want to take some of my hate back, because that was true hate. I didn't even give the All-Star game a chance when we recorded, I believe, Thursday night. I did not give it a chance at all. I said, how much of an abomination, if you want to use that word, the whole weekend was, which it was not. I actually thought Friday was very exciting.
I agree. From what I saw, Friday was good.
That's strong by saying very exciting. But the celebrity game, that might have been the best event of the weekend. Slight hyperbole there, but I enjoyed it. It's everything I wanted.
If it would have ended on that last shot, that would have been crazy.
It would have been great. That would have been an all-time great moment. Probably number one, right, for celebrity games.
It would have been crazy.
Anywhere, maybe. A 4-pointer to win it all. But, I wasn't planning on watching the celebrity game. And I happened to be home. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to turn it on. I actually got home, right as it was starting. And I'm like, let me turn it on. Let's see what it's about. And look, it was chaotic. I love chaos. I love chaotic TV. They had rules that you could just kind of you spun the wheel at the end of a quarter and you got a different kind of rule. Like Carlos Boozer randomly jumped in at halftime. They gained a former NBA player. I forget what the first one was, but they had the 4-point line. And it's possible all this stuff has been there for a couple years. I'll admit I haven't watched the Celebrity Game probably about at least 2 years. And I'd mentioned Thursday how it was just really kind of like the real All-Star Game, like people not really playing. Some of the celebrities seemed like they were there for a look. The WNBA players wouldn't be playing hard because they're playing against, short-ass celebrities who can't ball. Mm-hmm. And granted, you had celebrities there who couldn't play, but that made it fun. It was more like a true basketball atmosphere. And they were actually playing. They had DK Metcalf out there. Megatron, Calvin Johnson was out there. And they were all playing. Like, it was a fun atmosphere. The crowd was into it. It was chaotic. Fat Joe was randomly an assistant coach. Guillermo was the star of the show with 0 points.
I was gonna say Guillermo was getting all of the cheer. Like, he was the fan favorite, of course.
He really was. He really was. And if it sounds like I enjoyed it too much, it's because I wasn't expecting nearly to enjoy it that much. So, and then you follow that up with the rookie sophomore or the Rising Stars game, along with G League players, the 4-team tournament. Actually, sorry, let me let you touch on the Celebrity Game if you meant to. I was kind of talking over you. I just kind of
no, you're good.
You have any other thoughts from the Celebrity Game?
Honestly, no, you're good. The Celebrity Game was fun. It was.
I loved it way more than I should have. That's all I'll say.
It was fun. I mean, they had. I was gonna say with the 4-point, like everything's 4 points or like double your points for 2 minutes. That's just like a random wrinkle. You're like, okay,
and just throw the button, and then like Richard Jefferson's randomly jumping in games, like and reffing.
When Giannis called him Mike Davis or Mike, I think it was Mike, the ref. He was like, "You're making worse calls than him." Mark Davis. Thank you. Making worse calls than Mark Davis out here. I was like, "Oh," and then RJ was like,
"He's like, you out here looking like Mark Davis and shit or whatever he said." That's right. No, that was a great atmosphere. That was a great atmosphere. Hold on, I actually have notes for it somewhere. Here we go.
Sweet, sorry, what was that?
I was just saying I actually had notes for the entire weekend that I hadn't dug into yet. But it was certainly a different energy than what I had remembered for Celebrity All-Star Games. Like I said, once again, it had been a couple years, which is why I felt it was unfair that I shit on All-Star Weekend so much. Granted, the Saturday-Sunday product hasn't been great for a few years. It's been very hit or miss, right? And I hadn't seen much different from the Friday game. And I remember peeking in on the Rising Stars Challenge last year and not really having any recollection of it, as far as this year goes. So, but there was so much I enjoyed. I meant to say about the Celebrity Game, the announcing crew, I think it was Mark Jones and is it Monica McNutt? Is that her name?
Yeah, Monica McNutt with RJ.
And RJ was in there, in and out. They were hilarious together. Like, they didn't take it serious at all, which you shouldn't. You know what I mean? And I think some of the commentating crews have taken it almost too serious, or just a level of seriousness you shouldn't for a Celebrity Game. And they were kind of just joking this whole game. At one point, I remember this when I think it was Kane Brown, right? He played in the game.
Yeah. Yes.
He was like taking the ball out, and Monica McNutt out of nowhere said, "Oh, there's a lot more ethnic country being made today, which you love to see," followed by a completely awkward silence. Nobody said shit after that. And I don't know if something like entertaining actually happened in the game after, or if like a sideline reporter was talking, but they interrupted the awkward silence, thankfully, because I don't think anyone was going to say anything for a good 15 seconds,
Yes. No, they did a really good job with the entire Celebrity Game. I was actually very, very happy with the Celebrity Game. That's what they need to do moving forward. Throw random things in there. Make it so if you're not going to have celebrities out there who are specifically just going to play basketball but are celebrities, like you're going to throw in like a Janelle Monáe who can't play a lick of basketball but she's there. Make them do random things. Make them go into the locker room at halftime. make them just do a bunch of different things.
Well, not even make them, but like, you know, you're a celebrity, bring that energy, which is what they did. You know,
not make them, but I mean like add in things to where their celebrity can shine. Is more so what I meant.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think usually that's the celebrity's job. That's kind of the point of celebrity all-star games. But speaking of Janelle Monáe, there was a play I remember that made me laugh. She had like just gotten into the game, and like you said, she's not necessarily a hooper, right? And she's dribbling up the court, and I don't know if it was DK Metcalf or who it was, but someone just picked her pocket. Like they didn't even let her breathe. They picked her pocket, and then immediately followed by that was a hard foul. Like there was a few hard fouls in this game. Yeah. There was a play, Guillermo, I think it must have been the third quarter because it was when Carlos Boozer came in. Carlos Boozer blocks his shit, and Guillermo's like 4'11", literally. Like I'm not even making that up. Like he might be 4'11". And Carlos Boozer, a 6'9" Hall of Famer, blocked his shit to like half court. And I was like, this is exactly what I signed up for when I'm watching a celebrity all-star game. Like if you're gonna put legends in the game, that's what I want to see. Is them, you know, not sparing anybody. Just going at Guillermo's head, you know?
Doing what you need to do with him. All right, but yeah, celebrity game, I agree, was great. They keep those same things, keep some random aspects to it there as well. And Rising Stars game, I didn't get a chance to see much of that game. What were your thoughts on it?
I missed probably the first 10 minutes. I thought it was very competitive for what it's supposed to be. The teams were competing for the most part. They had a target score, you know, 4 different teams, I believe. Yeah, 4 different teams split up into 4 games, kind of like a round robin tournament or knockout style tournament, I should say. And it was effective. It really was. And like I said, most people, I mean, they were trying to get their highlights in, all that. But the players, for the most part, were playing defense, rotating on defense, just in general giving a shit about the game, which is what you want to see.
I think when you're that young and you don't get, and now you're taking almost time away from them to completely shine, and you're playing for something, it makes you like, okay, I can't just go out here and lollygag for a quarter because I won't get that. So let me go out here, actually put myself on the map. Let's play basketball for a little bit. And they're young, and they just like to play. So I think that might be a reason behind it.
It could be. I mean, honestly, I thought prior to this tournament style setup, I thought it was kind of trending the same way as the All-Star game. I thought they were kind of doing the same thing, which is jogging up and down the court, not really caring, not really playing defense. Excuse me.
Yeah.
I thought it was the same way, leading up to this past year. And, I want to shoot last year some bail. Like I said, I don't really remember. They might have played hard last year as well.
Last year they did.
certainly did this year. They did?
Last year they did. But this year, I was going to say, from what I heard, it was good. But last year, I know they did.
I liked it. It set a good tone all around Friday night for what Saturday was. And I thought, I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves here, but I mean, I thought Friday and Saturday were great energy. What you want from an All-Star weekend. You know what I mean? And it gave me really good vibes for Sunday. The dunk contest was not perfect, but they were completing dunks.
I was going to say, there were like 3 or 4 dunks outside of Mac's 4 that were pretty solid. I'm trying to think of exactly which ones. There was
Can I go back to the Rising Stars real quick, just before we get into Saturday.
Go on.
I thought the encore interviews, which they also tried in the All-Star game, but the ones Friday night specifically, those worked really well. Specifically with Jose Alvarado.
Yeah.
Because he was talking how he would talk in the game. Like, he was talking on the court. It was a hot mic, so you heard him kind of talking shit. The other ones did a little bit of a better job when they were on the mic. But I thought that's a genius idea, which it's been tried in baseball. Not that I watch baseball, but I've seen that they do it with players in the outfield at times, like mid-game.
Yeah.
Which definitely works because, there's no action, right? Or there is, but it's not every pitch. Whereas basketball, it's constant action. So I thought that was a really interesting idea, innovative idea that they did as far as the NBA. I mean, I'd kind of like to see that in games during the regular season. They'd never do that, but
No.
I think that would be great. I really enjoyed that. That was a cool aspect. Like they did it with Luke on Sunday, and it kind of sucked. Luke didn't give him shit. He didn't talk hardly at all. But Alvarado was great.
Yeah, I think like Draymond would be a perfect person for that. Like out of
Absolutely,
like who
that'd
would be in
my
an
dream
all-star
person
game.
for that. Him and LeBron. I'd love to hear LeBron like mic'd up during a game. You know, just to hear like how he talks to his teammates, how he's directing traffic. You know what I mean? So
Kevin Durant would be interesting just to see because like I can't remember who was talking, like what athlete was talking about it, but they were talking about like Kevin Durant will just slide like a sly comment or two. Like his trash talks more so like one comment right here, I'll slide it in as I'm doing something, or like I'll walk by you and just slide a sentence in there. Not obviously like Draymond, who is just consistently talking throughout the entirety of the game, or Chris Paul would be a great one as well.
yeah, I mean, I would pay to hear damn near any player. You know what I mean? Because you're gonna pick up something. But I mean, obviously their mics a little more. I don't really know how mics work as I'm talking into one, but like, you know, there's a way of them eliminating some of the background noise because, yeah, they're talking shit the entire game. Everyone on the court, basically. But yeah, no, I would pay a pay-per-view fee for like a mic feed. Honestly, I really would.
It would, if you added like an extra 100 on on
100?
NBA League Pass, like
yeah,
just
true. And it had like
I mean, because like obviously you wouldn't get it from everybody, but if you just threw that on to a League Pass for like exclusive game stuff for like, and then maybe not every single player every game, but like obviously exclusive game stuff, I'd do it. Absolutely.
just give me a mic on the court that picks up every chatter. I'd be okay with that. Hear people cuss out refs and all that shit. I'd love it.
Absolutely.
I'd
But
love
yeah,
it.
Saturday night. Let me not jump to the dunk contest. There were two events before. The skills challenge. I like what they did with it. Because at first I didn't know they changed anything. So I was like, okay, so I saw that they went with their teams, and I was like, okay, they just went through the first, or maybe it was like this last year and I just didn't pay attention. But they went through the first thing like they normally did. They jogged through it, and I was like, Jordan Clarkson as well. Wow, he was on cruise control.
I actually missed that.
Oh,
I missed Jordan Clarkson's.
He was on cruise control the entire. Like, I'm not gonna lie, Kyle. You right now would have been more useful, at least in that, if you put in effort. And I genuinely mean that. He went so slow. He jogged up the court. He legitimately.
I gotta watch this.
If your speed, like your average speed, was like 40 miles an hour, he was probably at 25. He was going 25 and a 40. He did not care. He was chilling the entire time.
It's very funny you say that because I showed up to Andrew's. So Andrew, myself, D-Roy, Nate, and Dana, we watched it. And I showed up a little late. I was about 20 minutes late. And
per usual.
Yeah, I guess so. First thing they say to me, they're like, Kyle, we found your NBA player comp. And I'm like, who? They're like, Jordan Clarkson. I'm like, why Jordan Clarkson? They're like, he did not care about the event at all and just like walked through the event. I'm like, all right, I guess that's my NBA player comp, whatever. But that was pretty funny.
He cruised through that entire thing.
I was like, I guess I could see myself cruising through a skills comp. I mean, shit, especially with how much shit I was talking about it last time, how whack it is. So yeah, I probably would do that. I probably would do that. But this one, though, I did like the windmill edition in the corner. That's about it, though. I really think they should do away with the skills competition as a whole. There's no need for it. We didn't even get the Antetokounmpos. We got 2 Antetokounmpos and Drew Holiday. That's false advertising. I don't care if Giannis got injured. Throw his mom in. Throw his dad in. Throw me another Antetokounmpo. I don't care if it's a kid Antetokounmpo. It's Team Antetokounmpo. So find a new one. That's the most times I've ever said Antetokounmpo in 30 seconds, probably.
That's the most that probably anyone's ever said it, and that's even like including their parents.
Maybe. But Yeah,
No,
I
so
can't stand.
don't
the
get me
skills
wrong.
competition.
Don't get me wrong. I would get rid of it. I think that there are many different things that I would rather see in place of the skills competition. I just think for what
I'll
I
give
was
you that it's better.
expecting for what I was expecting, it was like 3 times better. But
I
3
gotta
times
watch.
1 is still only 3 out of 10. I could get rid of a 30%. So,
Give me that one-on-one
so
tournament that we talked about. That's all I
oh,
need.
listen, you could have taken the younger Antetokounmpo brothers, to keep saying the last name. You could have just taken them, not even, and just had them play 1-on-1, and I would have been more happy with it. So I agree with you. The 1-on-1 would have been better. It's just for what I got and what I was expecting. My expectations they exceeded my expectations because they were so drastically low. But Jordan Clarkson was one of the highlights, if probably not the highlight of that entire thing, because of how lax he was going through it. Next, you've got the 3-point contest. As I messaged you, same thing. I'm still feeling the same way. I needed one more name. I think it was a good contest. It wasn't a great contest. It was still interesting. You still had Tyrese Halliburton got white hot. He had 31, which tied Steph for the most ever. And also it came down to a Dame Lillard, Dame time 3. And it was a good event. It definitely was a good event, not taking anything away from it. I needed Clay. I needed someone else, or even just needed someone else to get like white hot. Like even Buddy Hield getting white hot would have helped.
And that's exactly why I did not need one more name. I didn't need one more name at all. What I needed was one more round. They got 8 competitors. I believe 3 make it to the next round, the second and final round. Am I correct?
Yeah.
So they got 8, and then you move it to 3. I think it should be 8. Then the second round's 4, top 4 advance, and then the top 2 out of that. That was way too quick. I mean, the whole event was done by 10:30, which is good. I mean, you want it to be done, before midnight, but I feel like you have room for another round there, to where you can do it 8-4-2. Because once you really get into it, by the time you're into it, and like, damn, these guys are shooting, and they're really into it, and they're warmed up. Granted, there was a lot of good first round scores. By the time they're really into it, it's over. It moved very fast. Yeah, I think it needed one more round. Other than that, it's perfect. They
I
added
agree.
that.
So you go on.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I agree with what you're saying, that if you add the third round, especially if you end up making it the main event at some point, because I know obviously a lot of people have said this, not just like us or anything, but a lot of people have said the 3-point contest is more interesting than the dunk contest at this point.
Completely.
If you made it the main event, you definitely would want to have it 3 rounds to 8-4-2, because then it's manu
compelling.
manu. Then obviously the Dame, because then the Dame, and who had 25? I'm blanking on the name right now. Who went right before him?
Was it Halliburton?
Was it? No. Oh,
Halliburton
no.
might
Okay,
have
so
came
it
up
was
short.
Buddy Hield. It was Buddy Hield. He did. Buddy Hield got to the second. He got 25, and Dame got 26. That was great, but the fact that Halliburton had to shoot afterwards, and he flunked out, was like, eh.
Yeah.
Not that that's his fault or anything, but he just didn't have a great round. But if Dame's last shot, kind of like it was last year when Steph's last shot was for the game, to guarantee that like Dame's shot would have been Dame time, would have been better. It would have just been more compelling, because Dame went into that last round already needing 5 out of 6. He needed 6 points or 5 points. So it was. I agree. 3 rounds would definitely make the 3-point contest like perfect. But right now it's still great. I guess I needed one more person to get hot. But one more round allows for one more person to get hot.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it seems to be the most popular event of Saturday night now, especially when you factor in that everybody's just going to launch threes on Sunday night. So, you know what I mean? So
it's a prelude to the All-Star game.
Yeah, honestly, move that last, make it 3 rounds. The dunk contest as is, like the dunk contest, since everybody completed, and we'll get to that obviously, but everyone was completing dunks at a pretty regular pace, which is, rare, unfortunately.
And you're getting and like if you're the 3-point contest, we'll get names. we'll get
Yeah,
the best
you're
shooters.
guaranteed to get names in the 3-point contest.
Because especially like even like LeBron's more apt to do a 3-point contest than a dunk contest. Obviously, I know he's old, so he wouldn't do one now. But like, I could see LeBron doing a 3-point contest next year. And I wouldn't like, even though LeBron's not the greatest 3-point shooter, he can still get hot. I would love to see that. I would love to see how he fares. Even if he does bad, I would still love to see it.
Yeah, I don't understand why the league's best dunkers have, and it's not just a new trend, have long refused to do the dunk contest. Like John Morant said, it would take him 1 billion likes on Instagram for him to do it. Like, why? Like, you're clearly the best dunker in the league. What would be the problem with you just, even if you lost, what would be the problem with you showing up doing some vertical jumps? You try to do a through the legs in the All-Star game. Well, you know, you could bring the basics. His hops are nice enough to where he could bring the basics like a through the legs dunk, a windmill, and we would still enjoy it. You know what I mean?
If he did a through the legs with his chin at the rim, I'm giving it a 48. I'm not asking for like the most innovative things like we've seen from like obviously Team Flight Brothers or Jordan Kilgan. Like we've seen every dunk we can almost imagine, and then some that we can't. But so like really, if you can do fantastic dunks but put on a show with it, I'm gonna be happy.
Yeah, as long as you get it on the first or second try. Great. Like Mac McClung, had he done that 540 on the third attempt, which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Keenan, did when Oladipo did it, it took him a few tries, correct?
Yeah, it took Oladipo a while. It wasn't as clean.
Yeah,
like Mac
by the
was
time
close,
he does
like it was bordering at 720. Like because he was still spinning, as he like had his hand on the rim. Like he was bordering 720. He did it on the first try.
Did it on the first try, and it was when he did it, we're kind of like, oh shit, because he did it so fast. You know, compared to when Oladipo, you didn't expect it. Compared to Oladipo, when he does it 3 or 4 times, by the time he does it, you're like, all right, well that would have been cooler the first or second try. You know, the second try is okay. You know, especially if you lose the ball and we don't really see what you're doing, but getting it on the second attempt is okay. Once you get to 3, 4, 5, 6, which again, thankfully there wasn't a lot of that in this one. I don't think anybody went past their third attempt. You know, it was a very clean
Vince
contest.
Carter. The first one I'm just thinking of that was like a second attempt that we had no idea. Vince Carter when he did the bounce between the legs. The first time Tracy kind of bounced a little bit too high. I've never called T-Mac Tracy in my life. That I suck. Is he a white secretary?
Like he's a childhood friend or some shit.
Yeah. Me and Trace. No, T-Mac. He bounced it a little bit too high, and then Kenny was like, "Yeah, I think he's gonna take this between the legs, and if he does it, 10's not enough." And then he did it. It was the first time he actually got to fully attempt it, but like we kind of could gather, like I think he's going between the legs here. I don't know though, but I think. And then he did it, and it didn't take anything away from it. It almost made it better because you're like, "Is he really gonna do that?" And then he did it. So
indeed,
just have to be. Go on.
I was going to say, shouts to Mac McClung. Finish what you were saying, my fault.
No, I was just saying, just as long as you complete the dunk in a good amount of time. Like, if you miss it the first time off a bad pass or something like that, whatever. Just go back, and if you get it that second time, we're happy. We're all happy. Underrated dunk, I think the lob without the ball bouncing was a very good dunk. Like
I agree, and it got a low score. I completely agree with that. He threw it up.
Have you ever tried that? Like, I've tried that on mini hoops. It's hard. It's hard to time a lob without it bouncing.
You have to time it on the way down. Fairly far out, too. You know what I mean? And he threw it from like a 3. I thought that was difficult, and he got like a 44, 46 for it. He did not get a high score.
No, that's a 49. That's a 49. That timing is so hard.
That's unique. Like, I don't think I've ever seen that in a dunk contest.
I've never seen it.
I've never seen that, period. But no, Mac, I mean, he showed out. That's part of the reason was him and Jericho Sims is why I thought this contest did have promise, just because Mac's always been a show dunker. And Jericho Sims, if you've seen any of his clips on Instagram or anything like that, he's just, I mean, as you saw that night, everything's head at the rim, you know, chin at the rim.
Springs.
His problem was he did the honey dip twice. I wish he would have done some other dunk for his second dunk. because I think he would have been facing Mac. But he did double honey dip, and that whack ass little, hold up the 50 after because he grabbed it off the net.
It also didn't help that he couldn't open it properly. Like, it took him a second to open it. Like, if you like rip that open instantly, then it's kind of cool. But like, when you're struggling to do it, it's like that's the thing. You got to put on a show. Like Dwight Howard, when he went into the phone booth, came out with a Superman cape. He didn't even dunk the ball. Like, he literally threw the ball in. But we didn't know that at first. The angle that they showed it was like, oh, this guy took from like his step inside the free throw line and just threw the ball in because he didn't have it there. But that dunk is memorable. He went into the phone booth. I thought he dunked the ball when we all thought he dunked the ball, but then we looked at it and it was like, oh, he actually just threw it in. But I loved it. It was a spectacle. It technically isn't even really a dunk, but it was a spectacle and I loved it. I would give it a 50 if I saw it again today. Like, it was just like, just put on a show. That's all I'm asking for. Just put on a show. You don't need to do a triple between the legs. Like, if you can, well, you
gotta be a showman to put on a show, though. Too, it's not for everybody. But
and I thought can put on a show. He's the most electrifying player in the league. Zion's like, yeah, if I'm gonna do it, it's pretty much gonna be next year or bust. Like, okay, I'd like you to play a game. Zion said that, like, well, he didn't say like next year or bust. Zion said, if I'm gonna do any dunk contest, it's gonna be next year. It's gonna be the 2024 dunk contest.
Hey, at least he said that. At least he said that. Yeah,
but LeBron also said a preliminary putting my name in the 2010 dunk contest. Like, shut up, LeBron. Like,
LeBron was probably drunk when he said that. It was Saturday Night All-Star Weekend because we were. That was
my name in the 2010 All-Star Slam Dunk Contest.
Why are you saying it like that?
Shut up.
Why you saying it like that?
Because it just upset me so much. I'm looking at this guy. I'm asking for. You could have done a windmill, a reversed, a tomahawk. And then did like a 360, make them all a spectacle. You're getting 48s. All you have to, especially in 2010, just legitimately get your chin at drop step dunk. Get your chin at the. Vince Carter did a drop step windmill essentially and got a 49 because Kenny decided to not give him a 50. But LeBron in the dunk contest, one of those things that upsets me more than anything, and he honestly is probably the start of All-Stars not doing it. When your best player ever doesn't, like one of your best players ever, one of your best dunkers ever, let me say, doesn't do the dunk contest, you're like, if LeBron doesn't do it, then why do I have to do it? Because before that, you had all the best dunkers doing it before that. Before 08?
I think, honestly, it had been since Vince. I think it went on a drought similar after Vince Carter did it.
But you had Jason Richardson. He was still like one of your best dunkers. Desmond Mason was a great dunker. You had Dwight. You had Josh Smith. You had there were so many good dunkers doing it, and then it was just Gerald Wallace. Gerald Wallace? He caught a body here and there, but it's not that. He doesn't have those springs.
He did when he was he did when he was on the Kings, which I think he did a dunk contest when he was on the Kings as well.
On the Bobcats, and I watched him do like one of the plainest reverse dunks I've ever seen. He might have the worst dunk and like completed dunk on the first time in dunk contest history. It was like a plain reverse, and I was like, I'm gonna see better than that the debut back of all the games. Like,
I mean, I will say
I'm blaming LeBron. It may be like from Vince Carter, people got scared and then whatever, but we still had great dunk contests afterward. 03 was great. 06 was very good as well. That was one Iggy should have won against Nate Robinson. That was still good. But 07 was good. Gerald Green did it multiple times. Mm-hmm. Birthday cake dunk, one of the most underrated you'll ever see.
I think there's been
the best in the league.
I think since the 80s and 90s, you had more stars, especially the 80s.
Of course. I also think your best dunkers weren't stars. Weren't superstars when you got to the 2000s. I mean, because you had, Tim Duncan. I mean, Tracy did one. Vince did one. Kobe did one. So all of them did one early on. But then, your best stars, like Paul Pierce, Tim Duncan, Shaq at that point, they're not really dunkers like that. If that makes sense.
Right. But
So your best dunkers were like doing the contest because like Jason Richardson was probably the best dunker not named Vince Carter and Kobe in the league.
T-Mac.
Then T-Mac. Oh, sorry. And all
Yeah,
three
Jay
of them
Rich is
were
up there.
done
Josh
too.
Smith. I mean, they did.
Josh
the dunkers,
Smith, but he did some too.
Yeah, no, he did. He absolutely did. J.R. Smith. They did them. But I'm saying, you mentioned star power, like Ja, LeBron. They weren't. Yeah, like you said, they went through droughts during that time.
Yeah.
And even in the
But
90s as well. Like, Brent Berry won it one year. You know what I mean?
I
And
think
he
94.
So you had that all throughout, really. Like, probably, honestly, after the MJ Neek era, So I think you've had that throughout. And at times, like, I guess a Brent Berry, a high flyer, Iguodala at the time before he's really, like, cemented, Nate Robinson. When you got those guys in it, it does make it entertaining because, yeah, NBA fans know them. Josh Smith, like we mentioned. Those guys, Jay Rich. And we were getting that the last 10, 15 years. We had Derrick Jones Jr. in it, Aaron Gordon, Zach LaVine.
See,
We've had it here and there.
Those people I'm fine with. It's just like...
It's just you got to complete your dunks. I mean, we had Oladipo. So, I mean, it's been hit or... It all depends on the year. But you really just... I think there's been times where we just hit consecutive years where it was just tons of people not completing good dunks, but not completing them until the fourth, fifth, sixth time, or maybe not even completing them at all.
Yeah, and it's just that they're, as I was saying before, like there's names that can fly that aren't like if you just can't, like Luka, I don't expect Luka ever to do a dunk contest. He can't dunk really. Like he's not gonna go up there and do anything crazy. Like, but I don't expect him to. So like when your top stars aren't doing it, then yeah, you want the Derrick Jones Jr. people because like we all just know, okay, he's got bounce. Like out of anything, he's just got bounce. But when you're Ja, when you're Zion, when you're Anthony Edwards, and you've got star power, you've got that bounce, and you're not doing it, then it's like just do one. You don't need to do more than one, but just do one. Like, could you imagine if Clay and Steph never did a 3-point contest or Lillard?
Very true.
What? Like,
Very
what
true.
are we? What?
Yeah, just about every 3-point shooter you can think of who you'd consider a good shooter has done a 3-point contest.
You can't name one.
The only one that I can think of off the top of my head, and maybe he did it and I just can't picture it, is my boy, J.R. Smith. I don't think he did one, but pretty much any other shooter you could think of has done one.
Yeah, and
Literally.
I was gonna say JR's. I mean, JR did a dunk contest, didn't he? I think it was 05.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 05. I think it was 05. But yeah, I think JR would have been the only one, and he came on as a shooter like later, even though he really could have done it. It's a 3-point contest; you can do it whenever. But
J.R. Smith never saw a 3 he did not love, so I'll say that.
Well, I think if you would have had a contested 3-point shot jump contest, he would have done it. He would have probably won it every year.
J.R. Smith, and John LeBlanc. Those are the two. So
I forgot they're the same person. But yeah, okay, that's my Saturday. I definitely our Saturday. I should say you gave your opinions too. But I like the 3-point contest just needs to be last, and we need just give me round. Just get one more round of the 3-point contest and just move the dunk contest up, because if the night was flipped around and then you had that extra round and you ended with Dame winning it, that's perfect. Like, because
do the skills competition last.
I mean, you could do it last, so then people are like, it's 11 o'clock. If people say 10:30 at night, so people don't have to stay up, you can just go to bed. So I mean, you could do it last if you want to just put the worst last. But I just think, yeah, I think it was a good Saturday though. So I think Friday was 9 out of 10. I got Saturday about 8.5 out of 10. So we're working about a 87 out of 100.
I would agree with those scores, by the way.
About like a nice B plus. So you're working with a B plus. You take it, and I mean Sunday's
the crowd
weighted.
Was good.
The crowd was good. Salt Lake was good. Okay, then even before, I liked Post Malone. I think Post Malone did well. Brought out
What
21
song did he
Savage.
perform?
That was He did WoW and he did
Rockstar must be.
Rockstar. I blanked on it. He brought out 21 Savage. So
21.
yeah, so that was fine. Jewel,
Random.
that was okay. I mean, it makes sense for the area, but it was okay. Regardless, so leading up to it, everything's fine.
They're like, we got Burna Boy, Tim's, and I forget who the third guy was that performed with them. They're like, we got them for halftime, so we got to put Jewel as the national anthem.
We gotta put Jewel as that national anthem. But no, I like
who
the
do white people like Jewel. I don't know how they settled on
was
Jewel.
good.
Halftime was great, yeah.
Probably because Mormon country, they're like, you know what, Jewel, like we'll just ask them Jewel. We'll think that's good. We got Jewel.
I don't know how they settled on Jewel. I don't.
I really don't
Shouts
know how
to
you
Jewel.
stumble up.
I don't
Shout
know
out
if
to
I've-
Jewel.
I'm sure I've heard one of her songs, but shout to Jewel. I'm sure I didn't actually see the anthem. I'm sure she did a good job. I'm mad I missed.
It wasn't bad.
I missed the fucking draft. I missed that as well. I was late for that. I missed the draft, the original draft, like right before.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I did see some clips. I saw there was a hot mic, and Shaq and Charles were talking shit to each other. Love it.
Mm-hmm. That was
Jokic
great.
Jokic picked himself, so he didn't go last. I'm not really sure how Jokic gets picked last in an All-Star game, and in any form, in any court in America. I'm not sure how
He got
Jokic
picked second to last.
I know. I'm saying I don't even know how he's in contention for that in any court in America,
Yeah,
anywhere
no,
around the
fair.
world. But
That's right. And
yeah,
then
he drafted
obviously
himself to
Laurie
LeBron's
got picked
team.
last.
Yep. I thought Triple J did.
Oh no, so technically he did, but because they did the reserves and then the starters, Laurie was the last actual person on a roster.
Okay.
So they picked all the reserves, which is why it was funny because they picked the reserves and then like third pick in, Giannis is like the most electrifying player in the league, Ja Morant. And then we're like, you can't pick Ja, Giannis. Like,
What kind of Giannis impression was that?
I
That was
don't
funny.
know. That was whatever.
It started okay.
I lost it after that. I lost it. I'm not great with Greek, but yeah, it was the start of it was good. It was interesting to see how they picked their teams. I liked it, and then the game happened. I like that. Obviously, Giannis wasn't going to actually play in the game. We saw that he hurt his wrist, but I did like the fact that he got in the game for a little bit. Had the first play baseline, fine with it. I'm fine with them even letting him do that because obviously you don't want him injured for the rest of the game, rest of the season. Cool. Foul, you sub him out. What happened after that? What went on? What did we do?
You said you didn't
What did
really
we do?
watch the game, right? Yeah, the game was terrible. The game was absolutely.
I watched
terrible.
like the first quarter of. I watched like the first quarter of the game as I was kind of getting together homework, and then I had to go record some things. And homework wise, it became more important, and then the game became uninteresting. So I just didn't. I saw it in passing, and then I watched some of it after. I watched like highlights and a little bit of like a longer edition of it after.
You didn't miss a thing. So the game started really well. I thought the starters on each end brought energy, brought a great flow to the game. I think with about 2 minutes left in the first quarter, they subbed like each starting five out, or got some subs of some order in the game, right? And you could tell immediately the game took an energy dip. And I'm like, that's interesting. And when LeBron did come in the second quarter, the times he did enter the game, you could tell the energy was immediately raised. And usually he brings it a little more than the rest of the players. But this year it was even more so. I was like, damn, LeBron's really playing from the start, He was going for chase down blocks, which is how he injured his finger, and then he couldn't play in the second half. And once LeBron couldn't play in the second half, it was a fucking layup line. It always is a layup line, but I mean, there's one screen grab you'll see. It's of Jaylen Brown kind of going one-on-one against Jason Tatum. Did you see this?
See what? Sorry, it cut off just a
Did you
second.
Did you see when JB and Jason Tatum were kind of going one-on-one? Jaylen Brown and Jason
Yeah.
Tatum. There's one screen grab of it. They're on like the right elbow, and then the other 8 players are on the side, like literally with like their arms folded, their hands on their hips, like couldn't give a fuck. Like, it just does not look like any semblance of basketball.
I'm fine with that. Like, if you're playing in the flow of the game, like when you're playing pickup, like a serious game of pickup, when you're playing in the flow of the game, and then say I score on you, and like I get you with a move, step back, hit like a fadeaway 15-footer. Okay, you're like, okay, give me the ball. Like, I'm going 1-on-1 against him. If you're like actively watching on the side, like kind of like obviously on the court in case like a loose ball goes there, a missed ball or something, like, cool. But, like, at least be semi-attentive. But, like, that's fine to clear out. It's cool to clear out. But, like, be attentive and act like you actually care that they're going one-on-one, like you're interested to see the game. Become a spectator, like an enjoyable spectator, not just like, I'll get my chance soon, I guess.
It was bad. It was post-LeBron getting injured. It was the worst All-Star game I've ever seen, and there have been some bad ones. They didn't even try in the Alon score ending. It was just bad all around. It was a joke. It really was. Even
interesting point. So go on, actually.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, like Mike Malone. Let me say Jaylen Brown first because I mentioned Jaylen Brown. He said it was a glorified layup line, which you hear a lot of fans who watch it say, right? Or people who watch the game, whatever. And then he goes, I'd like to see the competition level raised somehow. Jaylen Brown says that. Then Michael Malone, coach of the Denver Nuggets, he says that he thought Embiid and Kyrie were trying to bring it, and he specifically called out Joel Embiid because he said Embiid was imploring the other players to play hard, and they still didn't bring it, even at the end in the Elon ending. And, he said Embiid and Kyrie were trying. He said it was probably the worst basketball game ever played, is what he said. It was pathetic. It really was. It doesn't take much to try hard in a basketball game, I don't want to be that guy and say, in such and such a day they played hard. But, like, someone posted a clip from the 2010s, somewhere in the 2010s. It might have even been late 2000s, but pretty recent history. And there was defensive rotations. I think it was the 2010s because it was still Wade, it was still Kobe, LeBron, Melo, those guys. And there was still, it was early in the game. Right? And they weren't playing 100%, but they were playing 65, 70.
No, they played 70%, but 70...
Until the fourth.
Listen, I feel like I can compete on a floor with 25%, whatever, because all I'm going to have to do is put on one crossover dribble and I can get a layup. Cool. I couldn't sniff the nosebleeds with 70% of Kobe. What am I like? Why should I feel like I could step on the floor when these are supposed to be the best players in the NBA? When I know clearly I can't step on the floor with them, but I shouldn't feel like I could. If I'm in that game, I'm just a small version. I'm just a small guy. It's like, oh man, that's just a smaller Kyle Lowry out there trying to just shoot a basket, and they'd let me shoot. What fun is that? Oh wow, Ja, you can do a 360. That's cool. Didn't know that.
You lost me there for a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
I don't know
especially when
what
you said you're a smaller Kyle Lowry, but
no, I only said that because I'm a stockier person and Kyle Lowry's a stockier person. So and I'm shorter than him. So I literally just like, oh wow, it's a shorter Kyle Lowry out there. That's it. There's nothing else other than that. But basically what I was saying was there was nothing important and impressive about that game whatsoever. And if you would have gotten me, you, Dustin, Joe, and Steven, we probably could have put up something against them. They didn't do anything.
I think if you took any 5 average Joes and put them out there, that all of a sudden they would try for whatever reason. But
I hope. That would be great. I would much rather see them dwarf us 120-0 than watch that. I really would.
It was pathetic. I'll say that.
It would just be laughable to be like, okay, so this is how bad like these people are comparatively. At least they'd be trying in some sort of resemblance. Like,
yeah, it was pathetic because they put in the target score so it could raise competition.
Yes.
And say what you want about the first 3 quarters, but at least last year and the year before that, the 2 years after nothing compares to the first year, 2020, when they did it, because they were going. That's as hard as I've seen anyone play in an All-Star game. Those 2 teams at that end, it was crazy. 2021, I believe it was kind of a blowout, so it was kind of anticlimactic, if I remember correctly. And last year it was kind of nip and tuck, I guess. It wasn't close as the first one, but it was close enough, kind of thing. And they're
it was close enough to where people were trying. They in the fourth quarter they really started getting after it. LeBron obviously hit the game winner, and that was it was a legitimate almost game winner because I think it was a 2-point game. So it was one of those, well, not like a game winner, but a game stealer. Technically, was it? But yeah, it was last year was good. This year, that was the most uneventful 55 I've ever seen from somebody.
It really was. And, people, for whatever reason, are online arguing about how people perceive Tatum's 55 to Curry's 52. I'm like, listen, it's going to be broken every year. If it's played like that, it's going to be broken every year or every 2-3 years. It's going to be to the point where someone's going to get 84 in an All-Star game because it's sitting there for him. If Giannis played in that game, he could have literally ran to the rim every single play if he wanted to. Just sprinted.
And that brings up a good point. This was the first All-Star game we have seen without LeBron for a second half, but LeBron, Giannis, Steph, and KD, and this is what it looked like.
Yeah. I'm
not saying that the newer. I mean, obviously there was old games with all four of them that looked terrible too. So I'm not trying to make it sound like it's just this new generation, but this was the newer generations. It was almost like their stamp because you had Lillard, cool, but Lillard was a little touch younger, but he was pretty much the oldest player on the court. Other than that, everybody was 27, 28 and younger. This was almost it could have been okay, we've got Ja playing hard. We got Anthony Edwards playing hard. We got Luka taking control. We got Jokic doing crazy things. And it just fell flat. And I think it honestly is just, this is a little, it's almost a view of kind of what the NBA is to an extent, which sucks because you don't have people playing hard. I mean, you have people playing hard throughout the season, but there's people who take more games off. It's just this, the All-Star game as a whole almost was kind of a microcosm of the entirety of the NBA, only regular season. Because the playoffs, people obviously play as hard as they possibly can because they're all chasing a championship. But it's the regular season doesn't matter as much because they're only chasing a championship. To some people who are chasing an MVP, cool, or the people who are fighting for jobs. But once you've got a secure job, it just feels like you can go through the motions at times. And I don't like it.
You hit it on the head when you say it was a microcosm, because that's exactly what it was. Because the regular season has become increasingly devalued.
Yes,
unless
I think it's ridiculous.
Unless you're someone I'll say Giannis. I'm not even talking about people like LeBron or KD or Steph or Kawhi even. Kawhi, you could argue, kind of started all this, but he's had enough heavy injuries and he's a vet to where he kind of deserves the load management. And he's been ramping it up this particular year. He hasn't been, when he first came back, yes, he was doing the whole back-to-back thing, but I'm pretty sure he's playing night in and night out right now. But I mean, we've kind of mentioned this before. Load management, I believe, is pathetic with the Stars, with how rampant it is. You have players missing. It's rare when players don't miss 15-plus games. Star players, right? Mm-hmm. The ones off the top of my head who, really do play every game, again, excluding guys like Bron, Steph, KD.
And they all play. I was gonna say, and they those are the vets, but they all play every game. You don't see a game where Steph doesn't. Steph runs around screens every game. LeBron's trying to control the pace every game. Kevin Durant is going out there trying to score 30 on everybody every game. Giannis, I'm putting Giannis in with the vets. I don't care, whatever. He's been in the league long enough. He's playing every game.
I'll say this: LeBron gets his load management, but he should. Okay.
He's in his 20th season. I get it.
Kerr's definitely doing the Popovich stuff where he will sit Wiggins, Clay, Steph, and Draymond all in one night, which isn't.
I hate that. Hate it.
I hate it, but it all depends when you do it. All depends when you do it. If you do it at a home game, if you're doing it home game versus Charlotte, by all means do it. You know what I mean? by all means,
Never
do
should
it.
do it on the road, especially an East Coast game, because you're only going to see them once. Like, could you imagine us? I mean, Boston's amazing, so you're never going to have to worry about Boston now. But could you imagine us going from Vermont to Boston, and then like, man, we're not going to see Steph, Clay, or Draymond tonight?
Yeah, and that's what that's
cool.
It's what some people deal with, and it's become more and more common. And like you said, it is a microcosm. The All-Star game is a microcosm of what the regular season is, because the regular season is far too devalued.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, I mean, I want to call out Luka specifically. I want to say call out, but he's one I've really noticed over the past few years not take it seriously. Just jogging up and down the court, will jack up a deep three here and there. And I'm like, man, it really doesn't seem like he cares about this game. Or he's just hungover because, All-Star weekend it's the Black Super Bowl weekend, and it's a party weekend, just like Super Bowl weekend is. And, of course, some of these players, Harden notoriously, would come in hungover and jog up and down the court and not give a fuck about the game. Fine, whatever. Luke has been doing that at a far younger age than Harden was when he started not giving a shit in these games, okay? Harden was doing it in his prime. Luka, who, might be in his prime, but, he's 23 is my point. He's been to 3 or 4 of these, and each time, I'm like, man, it really doesn't seem like he cares. We mentioned earlier he was mic'd up. And they played a clip. He said it in the interview when they were interviewing him, but he also said it like the mic'd up clip where he's like, I got my 2 points. I'm good. You don't want who will eventually be the face of the league once LeBron and Steph leave. That's going to be the face. Him, Giannis, whoever else. You don't want that.
Feels like we're...
That's where it's headed. I mean, they got to do something about it. When you got the Elon ending and it's still this bad, you either might as well do away with the game, like the Pro Bowl, or you got to maybe go the route of the Rising Stars Challenge. Somehow make it 4 teams, split it up, make it tournament style. That's the only other thing I could imagine or see. I mean, I've mentioned this many times regarding to the NBA. One of the best seasons was the lockout season where they played 66 games, which is a perfect amount for an NBA season. You got enough to where you got the sample size of how many teams are doing well. It's not like a 30-game season where damn near anybody can make the playoffs. You did 66, you'd probably have the same teams in the running as you would if you did an 82-game season. Then you have players who can't take off 20 games out of a 66-game season. So, that eliminates that problem. It unfortunately will never happen, I don't think. But the NBA season is certainly too long. Make it 66 games. That is the perfect amount.
It's
then you can spread it out.
You gave out the layout last week. It's really, you just cut out, instead of 4 division games, you play 3, and then that easily cuts it out. You cut out the back-to-backs. You cut out games against the West from 3 to 2, and then you maybe have to cut out a couple Eastern. I mean, you cut out a couple games in the East, but you make them so you always go to them, so every team gets to see you once still. 66 games. You start December 12th, so you get a couple weeks in, and then Christmas is really when it starts to pick up. Like, it's really not a difficult thing to do. I don't understand why they don't do it. You then, obviously Christmas Day is a big thing, but even then the NFL is starting to take over Christmas Day. So you get the beginning of the season, you get excited for it at the point where the NFL is starting to, like, once the NFL ends and you're really like in the mid-season, like the beginning to mid-season of the NBA, and you're actually excited for it, and you have nothing else to worry about. Like, part of the season gets lost to the NFL, because why wouldn't it?
Yeah.
So, like, the NFL just ended 2 weeks ago, and like it's already the All-Star break. So like now we're at the stretch run of the NBA, but we have already missed 60 games. Essentially,
there's
55 games.
There's about between 20 and 23 games left, depending on the teams. Look, I mean, yeah, we've mentioned that how the NBA season gains. It used to gain national attention more so after the Christmas games, just because of the matchups, right? And now, as we mentioned earlier, how many players are missing games for whatever reason, whether it's real injuries or otherwise, load management. The increased likelihood it is that you don't see stars on Christmas Day, which we've seen. You know, January is the hardest month for the NBA anyway. It's dead in the middle of the season. But now I saw someone tweet the other day, and it's very true. The NBA season starts after All-Star break. It really does. Now is when you're going to see a lot of these players not doing load management because they can't. It's 20 games left in the season. You got to go for it. Now everyone's going to be sprinting to that finish line. You're going to see a increased ability and increased intensity out of all these players and teams. And it sucks that you have to get to this point in the season to really do that. You know, you got basically 8 weeks left in the season. And, you know, that's usually an energy you get at the very beginning of the season. And then maybe around, like I said, January, maybe it fizzles out, you know, after the Christmas Day games. You get that little malaise into the All-Star break, and then it picks back up. Now it's like the first month of the season, and then from November on, it's that malaise. And, yeah, I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I believe it's to cut games. That's never going to happen. So I don't know what the actual answer is that the NBA is going to do as a solution.
That's the only answer.
It's not going to happen.
Well, not the only answer. That's not the only answer. But yeah.
It's not the only answer, but it's the most logical answer. You know, shorten the games, shorten the season to where, you know, you have increased importance in the regular season. There is too many games, but, man, there's got to be, whether it's fines, whether it's a game's minimum played, I really don't know what the answer is, and it's unfortunate. And
You're
truly,
gonna have to put some.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, truly, I see more. I would include the 2010s in this. You see more star injuries, major injuries happen throughout the year, I think, than ever before. I don't remember many stars getting this critically injured all the time. And again, I'll throw the 2010s in there with Derrick Rose. I'm almost numb to it now when it happens, when a star gets injured in the NBA.
And it's like, the worst part about it is it's like, I feel like if you play more, it probably wouldn't get injured as much. And it's weird how it works that way. Like, you would think it'd be the opposite, but like when you go through it, throughout the entirety of times, like there are always injuries, but you didn't have like the All-Star game, just obviously because it happened. You're missing the first, for no arguments at all, you're missing the first, the third, the fourth or fifth, and the seventh best player playing the second half of the game. And Giannis, Kevin Durant, Steph, and LeBron. So I probably have, regardless if we want to argue what order Steph's ahead of KD and LeBron, whatever, I don't care. You're missing 4 of the top 7 players. I don't remember a time that's ever happened. I don't know if you can, but I do not remember ever missing 4 of the top 7 players in an All-Star game.
Yeah, I mean...
And that's not their fault because, like, Kevin Durant got injured, Steph got injured, Giannis got injured literally the game before the All-Star game, and LeBron hurt his hand halfway through. But, like, it just seems that even with, like, we're taking more care and more concern over our body, but then we're still getting injured more than ever, and we're missing more games more than ever, and the product is taking a hit because of it. But we're taking more care of our brand and ourselves rather than taking care of the whole entirety of the brand, which is the NBA.
Yeah, no, that's well said. I mean, it's not a good product. It's not a great product up until this point of the year is when it becomes what you want it to be, which is stars on the floor. If it's a Celtics-Bucks matchup, a guarantee that we're going to get the 12 players on each side or 13 players on each side that we want to see. You know what I mean? And not missing, like Middleton was actually injured, but not missing Middleton because he's getting rest. And okay, it's just Holiday and Giannis. That happens so much where you're like, yo, I can't wait to watch this game. I'll turn it on. And one of their key players is just resting, or it's a minor injury. And you're like, man, what the hell is that? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no,
it's getting worse by the year. And I really don't want to make this a shit on the NBA episode, but you made a great point by saying it's a microcosm. KD made a great point on his I don't know if it's a podcast or if it's like a video show, his boardroom show. He made a great point, and he was talking about the dunk contest, but in general, he was saying how All-Star Weekend's kind of sacred. You know what I mean? And I really do think you got all the legends there. You really should do a service to the fans and put on a show, especially like we said. You do it in these random ass Drew League games, shit like that during the summer. What the fuck is the problem with doing it in a NBA situation? I don't understand why these players are having the too cool for school attitude, because basketball's basketball in any court in the world.
You're literally
you lace
the
them up
last
and you
thing
play.
I'm gonna. You have Mac McClung, as you were saying before, how like this is a spot where you make your name, and because more casual fans than ever are watching. Mac McClung made probably a bigger name for himself this weekend. He went from not being on a team 2 weeks ago to headlining a slam dunk competition, and then opening. He spoke right before Post Malone came out, so basically he introduced Post Malone, which is also a crazy thing for him because he's one of the biggest artists in the world. He made a bigger celebrity of his name this weekend probably than hitting a game winner in the first round of the playoffs, which is crazy to think, because you're not going to be like, oh, that's the guy who hit the game winner in the first round against, he's a Sixers, so playing against the Hawks. But you're going to be like, oh, yeah, that's the guy that did the 720 or like the 540 in the slam dunk contest.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he made a name for himself this weekend. Cool, great for him. He took it serious.
Yeah.
I'm done. I can't say. I can go on for another 30 minutes.
I'm surprised you ran it more than me. And you didn't even sit through the game. I sat through that whole whack-ass game. But,
I know. I didn't watch anything. I didn't want anyone else's opinions on the game. I didn't want, from what I saw, from what I, kind of read about and what I've said, but I didn't, listen to other people's opinions on talk shows or anything like that. I was like, let me just look and just see, and then I was like, this is just ruining. This is what it feels like the NBA is, and I can't. But I gotta stop because I could rant for another 30 minutes of being upset.
Let me ask you this, because we've been on for quite a while. Let me ask you this before we go. Give me 3 teams from each conference that you were looking forward to seeing how they traject over these next 2 months before we get to the postseason. So what 3 teams from each conference are you looking at?
I'm looking at Phoenix, of course. That's, I think, the number one team pretty much everybody's looking at, because you've got to know how is KD going to gel with Chris Paul and Devin Booker. So obviously Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see where the Grizzlies take themselves to.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see if they can, because the West is open, and even though the Suns are there, they could still, with Ja and everyone being fully healthy, I feel like they could really make a push and be that team. I feel like we know what Denver is. I just feel like we need to see Denver in the playoffs, so I'm not too, I'm interested in them, but I'm not, really interested to see what they're. They do have some new additions too, so it's going to be interesting to see if those new additions are going to make that playoff push,
especially that Reggie
regular
Jackson
season. Definitely. And the third one would be the Mavericks. I want to know how Kyrie and Luka are going to mesh together. My fourth one, honorary, would be how Steph's going to come back to the fold. Can the Warriors get back into that true championship bubble, or are they going to stay on the outside? And then the Lakers are interesting too. So the West is super interesting throughout. In the East, the Sixers, can they stay as hot as they are? As they have been? I have no questions about Boston. I have no questions about Milwaukee. They both made some. Milwaukee, Jay Crowder, that addition is going to be great. So I'm just moving forward to see them. That's 1. 2, the Hawks. With the firing of Nate McMillan, 2 years ago,
it came out of nowhere.
When it did. 2 years ago when they got Nate McMillan, because halfway through the season, because they were terrible, they ended up turning it up, got to the playoffs, they got to the conference finals that year. They beat the Sixers, the last Ben Simmons series we really saw. So that would be the second team. And then I'm interested in the Heat, because I want to know how that Kevin Love addition is going to work and how their full roster together is going to look. And then if I had to give a fourth team, it would be probably the Cavs, to see if they can stay up with the upper echelon teams, or if they're going to kind of fall into that first year. Well, we're still trying to work things out. Those would be I know you asked for 3. I gave 5 and 4, but
yeah, I like how I asked for 6 teams. You gave me 9, but
yeah.
Quickly,
I gave my first 3, and then I gave a couple too.
For sure. Quickly to your Nate McMillan point and the Hawks. A, that was very random. B, their interim coach is Joe Prunty, who was the interim coach prior for the Bucks when I believe Jason Kidd got fired before Budenholzer. He's not the greatest. I think Nate McMillan got a raw deal done, man. I mean, he's everywhere he's gone, he's turned their program around. He did a really good job with the Pacers and got dismissed for whatever reason. I don't think he had a season below 500 with the Pacers, or I don't think there was a season where he wasn't in the playoffs. Like you said, they immediately turned it around when he was the interim coach in 2020, I believe it was.
He's been there. He was coaching for like 2 years.
Yeah, and
in full. Like I think this is his 3rd season, but since he came through halfway through that year, then he had a full season, and then he's had half a season. He's coached for a full 2 years there, and they've made it to a conference finals within those 2 years.
Yeah, I think he once again got a raw deal. I immediately thought this had to do with Trae Young when I first seen the news. Like, I haven't heard much about it, but I would think it has to be Trae Young related more so than it is front office related, in my opinion. That was my gut reaction anyway.
Yeah,
and I don't know. He's someone who definitely deserves to be a coach in this league. I'm very interested in Atlanta's offseason more than I am their postseason prospects. But anyway, we'll keep it in the East since we're talking about the Hawks. 3 teams I had were the Sixers, the Miami Heat, and the Milwaukee Bucks. And I'll start with the Sixers.
The Bucks, okay.
They've been a top 3 team probably since Christmas. Okay.
Yeah. Definitely.
Harden's healthy. Harden's playing some of the best ball he has in quite a while. He possibly should have been an all-star. You could argue
probably the best basketball he's played since the 65-win season. I mean, he played really good against in Brooklyn right before he hurt his hamstring, but like as a consistent level because that wasn't for the longest of times. Probably
since at least 2020. Probably at least since the bubble. When we can for sure say he was in shape, and we can for sure say he was healthy.
Definitely. But I love his role on this team.
For sure, he's a great point guard, which is the role he plays. They got Maxey coming off the bench. I love what they added at the trade deadline. I love their bench. They got depth. They've got so many different lineups they can throw at you. This is a team I was big on before the season, and they're truly rounding into that team. Now, we've mentioned time and time again.
They got a steal for Harden.
Yeah, they really did. They really did.
Sorry, I'm just looking back on it just because obviously when you have a Ben Simmons centric package, you've got a steal.
Who's
now really it was a Seth Curry centric package.
Yeah, it was. Ben Simmons is now just a rotation guy, if that. We'll never. Who knows what Ben Simmons will look like? But Philly. We've talked time and time again about Harden's playoff failures and how he, it's undeniable he's just not the same player in the playoffs as he is in the regular season. Embiid has not been great in the postseason either, as far as production, as far as, I don't even want to say coming through in the clutch, but just breaking through. You know what I mean? We just haven't seen that one series from Joel Embiid where we're like, yo, this fucking guy, which I've said that a million times about him during the regular season. But it seems like when it slows down and you can kind of key in on him, his percentage goes down, and he almost turns into a center version of Harden as far as living at the line and, really relying on the line to score his points. So that's Philly. Miami, they just picked up Kevin Love. As I learned my lesson last year, and I mentioned this in the podcast prior, but you cannot count them out no matter how ugly they look, no matter how disjointed they look, no matter how terrible Kyle Lowry looks right now. Like, he's not the Kyle Lowry of old. And I'm still would not – who in the East would want to face them at all? Because, even if you get past them, you're still going to get beat up all, if it goes 6 games, that's going to be a rough 6 games. If it goes 5 games,
Yeah.
that shit's going to feel like 6 games. So I'm really interested to see how Jimmy Butler looks these last 2 months, how that Kevin Love addition looks, because I don't think he's washed at all. I really don't. I thought
I don't
even in minor production in Cleveland, he was putting up numbers. So I'm really interested to see how he looks as a pick and pop option for Jimmy. It sucks. I really wanted to see Westbrook on this team. I really did, just because of how Miami operates. And I think I mentioned
thought
this
they were
all
getting
last
Pat Bev.
podcast. I'm surprised they didn't.
I
It's
really thought they were getting Pat Bev.
going to Chicago, and Chicago's a weird ass team, but so I'm really interested to see like if Miami truly does round into form, because I believe they're in the 7th spot right now, which is a play-in spot. Whoever's at the 6, I believe they're only a game apart. So I really want to see if they surge into that 6-5 area of the playoff seeding and see where they go, because there's a chance maybe I'm wrong about all this and they're just really not that good and they deserve to be in the play-in game range, but I don't believe that to be true. And then the Bucks, they've revamped their roster. Not revamped, but they got some nice tweaks and additions. Joe Ingles, slowly coming back over these last 2 months. Like you mentioned, Jay Crowder. Middleton's been in and out. We haven't seen a consistent Middleton yet. And this is the time, if you're going to get ready for the playoffs, that you want him playing every night. So if we can consistently see Giannis, Holiday, and Middleton, which anybody in Milwaukee and the Bucks themselves would probably tell you, if we got those 3, we're confident against anybody in the league. So let's see. Let's see what that full team finally looks like, because we haven't seen it for, now 3/4 of the season. We have not got to see what their full roster truly looks like for 2 weeks even. So those are the 3 that really stick out to me. And if you want me to give an honorable mention in the East, by the way, I think it's the Knicks who are ahead of the Heat. So the
Knicks are ahead by half game.
The Knicks would be my honorable mention for them, for the East, I should say. Nobody really in the back. The Cavs, we'll talk about this more as we get close to the playoffs, but I think the Cavs, they could go either way. You know what I mean? If they were a conference finals team, I wouldn't be surprised. If they were a first round exit, I'd be kind of surprised, but not entirely, depending on the matchup, honestly. But they've got damn near everything you need to win. So, those would be my 3.
Matt,
honorable
I like the Cavs. I mean, I also have the Cavs beating the Sixers in round 1. Or no, round 2. Round 9 being round 2.
You do. And, hey, they got the front line to do it. That's exactly the front line I would want with Mobley and Jared Allen. Let me add one more thing to Kevin Love. I'm shocked they didn't put him on the trade market. Like, you definitely could have got something back for Kevin Love and Karis LeVert. Like, that could have got you back a nice player, and they just buy out Kevin Love, who is, like, if you mentioned Pat Beverly, who was a buyout option. He, 2-3 years ago, was a lockdown defender. Now he's a pesky defender. You know what I mean? Like, you want him to guard your guys, but he's not Jose Alvarado, who's like a game changer when he's guarding your point guard, Kevin Love definitely could have got. I mean, shit. Beverly went for Mo Bamba. You telling me Kevin Love couldn't have fetched Mo Bamba or Kevin Love and Karis LeVert? So that really confused me as a team who wants to be a contender, that the Cavs didn't. That just seems like dumb management to me. So I thought that was very interesting. In the West, my 3 teams to watch would be the Clippers, or that I'm going to watch would be the Clippers, Lakers, and OKC. And I feel like my honorable mention could go a million different ways, whether it's the Warriors, whether it's the Mavericks. And you know what? I'll give my honorable mention to the Mavericks, because we'll be talking a lot of Warriors. Let me start with the Mavericks and say that I think Kyrie's going to be a better version of what Jalen Brunson was for them. And I think they will be scary on offense. They already look scary on offense. But not entirely sure what that will look like in the postseason. And, of course, Kyrie is very wishy-washy in the personality department, in the teammate department. We've all seen that in every stop he's been. But as far as the other 3, Clippers just added Westbrook yesterday. Wow. That's all I can say to that, because you just never know. Or you do know. And if we're going by what we do know, that's going to be a failed experiment. I'm holding out optimism.
They got a bomb got a bomb to go against with a minefield.
Listen,
Like that can either explode or like it could be you could walk through the treacherous waters and it could be perfect because you've got Paul George who's in and out, Kawhi who's been playing more, but we know he's one bad sprint away from not seeing them for the rest of the season. Like
it's true. It's true.
He's really just like one hard sprint in like a weird like step away from him tearing a meniscus or something, but you wouldn't know it for a month. It'd be like he's got some knee soreness, and it's like, oh, it's worse than we thought. It's inflammation. And it's like, oh, he actually tore his meniscus, but like,
hey, bro,
just how it happens with Kawhi.
I would say this: Kawhi has looked damn near peak Kawhi. Like he looks good. He looks good right
great
now, which is why they're intriguing
to me.
How
long it'll last? That's all.
I'm more bullish on him than I am. I mean, you're right. You never know. You just don't.
I hope so. I love to see the best players in the league play. So I'd love to see him play. I just don't know if it'll happen.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I would say that. I mean, he tore his ACL last time. That's a very freak injury.
Of course.
You don't like to see it because he has had knee problems in the past and lower leg problems. But that's why they're one of my 3 teams in the West, because
of course
they are so intriguing, because Paul George especially has been in and out. I don't think he should have been an All-Star.
No,
I have no idea why he was an All-Star. But when
Fox.
Paul George is at his best, yeah, thankfully Fox got in with an injury, but I feel like someone like De'Aaron Fox should have been in there before Paul George.
Yeah, he should have just been in. Definitely.
But again, back to the Clippers. Between Kawhi and Paul George and them already, that alone, they would have been one of my 3 teams to watch anyway. That was before you add Westbrook in, and that could just fuck everything up, or who knows? You know, Ty Lue has proven to be one of the better coaches in the league, one of the best coaches in the league, I should say. So maybe he can get through to Westbrook. I don't know. I really don't know what his role is going to be. If it's going to be the starting point guard, I would imagine he's not coming off the bench, but I just don't know. Obviously, he's played with Paul George. I'm sure that's part of the reason why he's there, is Paul George vouched for him. And you can't get a teammate or former teammate to say a bad thing about Russ, which is that's something. That's not nothing at all. You know what I mean? So
it is a good thing.
You know, I probably wouldn't have, I would have loved to see him on Miami. I've said that a couple times. I think they would have been able to manage him. I feel like they would have been able to put him in spots that are successful. I'm not so sure I can say the same thing about this Clippers offense, that you know, you need to get Paul George and Kawhi the ball. You got Bones Highland, who he wants the ball. I mean, that's why he was having problems with Jokic and all them in Denver, and that's about as unselfish of an offense you can play with. And he didn't like his role there. I love the Eric Gordon addition. This team's meshing. They can be scary defensively. All their numbers show that they're, anywhere from a very good to elite team offensively and defensively. So I can't wait to see it. I got the other team that plays at Staples, not Crypto Center, whatever the fuck it is, the Lakers in there, just because they're going to try for a playoff push. It's looked pretty terrible basically every season except for the bubble season. We never know what we're going to get with Anthony Davis. As far you want to talk about someone who's a good sprint away from a serious injury, it's Anthony Davis, not Kawhi.
Absolutely.
One thing I'll say about Kawhi, Kawhi's definitely missed more games in LA, and he probably, I'm going to sound like I'm contradicting myself here. Kawhi is probably more deserving of the nickname street clothes than Anthony Davis, because he's definitely missed more games in LA than Anthony Davis has.
It's Anthony Davis more.
However, really literally every time Anthony Davis hits the floor, I'm either worried he's injured or he's grabbing at his ankle, grabbing at some part of his body, grimacing like he is injured. Every single time. Like 80% of the time, I would say, you're like, oh, shit. Or Anthony Davis got up slow. Every single time. Can he put together 2 or 3 weeks? You don't see that with Kawhi. That you don't see with Kawhi.
With Kawhi,
he gets more serious injuries more. But, man, Anthony Davis, it seems like out of 10 times he hits the floor, at least 6 are a minor injury to a 2-week injury. And, I wonder what they look like. LeBron's playing well. If Anthony Davis can put together the production he had earlier in the season especially after everyone in LA wants to make it Russ's fault, right? So
Yeah,
here
of
it
course
is. There's no rush.
They want to blame. They want to blame someone, and it can't be LeBron. I mean, you have people who blame LeBron, not blame LeBron. Anthony Davis has been injured, but we knew that already, so it's got to be someone's fault.
And of course, they make Russ a scapegoat. But hey, there's no Russ. You got more shooting now after the deadline. You've got this long break.
You got a point guard.
Got a point guard. You got everything. Can you get to the 7th seed? That still puts you in the bubble position. But can you get to what would in real life be a playoff spot? Can you get to the top 8? Can you do that?
They are 3 games out right now of the 7th seed, which is currently the Pelicans. 1 and 2. You are right about Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, every time he runs, he jumps, he sprints, he dives, he does anything, I'm nervous that he's going to walk up and get injured. With Kawhi, it's more so like he'll play a game and then the next game you'll be like, Kawhi is out because he got injured in the 3rd quarter, and you never saw it until you go back to the replay and maybe he looked at his knee and you're like, oh, well, he's probably just out the next month and a half. So he doesn't play unless he's 99% healthy or more. Like that. So then you'll get some stars who will play at 85. Like Kawhi's just not going to play a game at 85. He's either 100% healthy or he's not playing. It feels like. But
I'm going to give you my last.
Some people are like that.
I'm going to give you my last team, but then I have a follow-up question after I give my last team. My last team is OKC. They're a young team who carries themselves like a team that should be in the playoffs. And I'm wondering if they can get – I think they're around the same place that the Lakers are, around that 13, 14 area.
They're actually in the 10 spot right now.
Are they?
So
they would
be in the play-in. They play. Yep.
So I'm wondering what their last 2 months look like if they make a true push for it, which I would assume they do. SGA is a bona fide star. A bona fide star.
100%.
And they just play hard. I like Giddey a lot. I just like how they carry themselves as a team, as a young team specifically. They carry themselves kind of like vets, and it's interesting. I couldn't even tell you their head coach. That's how pedestrian their last few years have been and weird their last few years have been. But I don't know. I really want to see what they look like, how they handle this last 2 weeks. Last 2 months. Are they built for it? You would think they would be with their youth and with their depth. They got a lot of players who can do a lot of different things. So I'm interested.
He's a 37-year-old Mark Daigneault.
He's 37. That's young. Wow.
Mark Daigneault. It's
like
or Daigneault. It's Daigneault.
I know. I mean, not that coaches are like striking or anything, but he looks like you could just grab him off the street. Like he just looks like your average dude. But
he was born in '85. He went to UConn.
Shouts to
I don't know when he played for basketball, but yeah. So
my follow-up question, Keenan. It's Zion and Ja's. What? It's their 4th season. This is their 4th season, or is it their 5th season?
I want to say it's this is their 4th.
When are you gonna give up? When are you gonna give up on
4th.
Zion? Because this is a serious injury by the sounds, or it's not even a serious injury. It's that it was an injury that lingered, and now he's gonna be out like an additional 4 to 6 weeks, and he was supposed to be.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to not fire. He not get a setback. Out on Zion, like what?
Out on him as like an impact guy. Like if you can't make it, like I'll say Blake Griffin. He was often injured early in his career
as a franchise guy.
Yeah, as an impact player.
I'm out on him right now. I'm out on him being the cornerstone of a franchise.
You are. Already, you're out on him?
I think you have to be healthy enough. I can't justify saying to my organization, I'm going to bet the house on a guy who hasn't played more than 61 games in a season in 4 seasons. I just can't. It has nothing to do talent-wise. Again, as the last time we talked about Zion, he's averaging 26 and 7. That's phenomenal. He came into the league playing great. It's just
He's unguardable when he's on the court.
Yeah, I just can't. I can't put max money into him.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Like, and he is a max caliber player, and maybe someone else manages to have a better team than I do for medical team, or he just manages to have better luck that way. But like, I would love him as my secondary option, but I can't. I'm out on him being a franchise cornerstone because of his injury health. That is the only reason. It has nothing to do with his play on the court. Just the fact that I can't bet on him to play games. There's been 82, 164, 246 plus another 60. There's about 300 games he possibly could have been a part of, and he's been a part of 114 of them. Like, I can't, 33% success rate on that, like, or 40% success rate on him playing. I can't bet the future on 40%.
That's basically that's like a full season if you played all 82 in like a finals run, 114,
yeah,
maybe.
LeBron's played 114 games probably in a season. Like, the season where he goes like 7 and then 7 and then, like, because that's literally like that in a finals run, and then maybe like the first 2 weeks of the next season. Like, I can't bet my franchise on that. That's way too much money to put into that. And I've got to, and yeah, right now, what do you think you could trade him for? A lot.
I think he'd still get a haul.
He would get a good haul, but I don't know if he doesn't get an Anthony Davis haul. I don't know if I'm giving up Lonzo, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, and picks. If that was available, yeah, no, I would get a good haul. But I would, if I'm them, I'm having that conversation
of trading Zion.
I'm having that conversation. He's in his fourth year. Contract time's coming up soon. I mean, I'm not saying you do it, and if they give it to him, I'm not even like saying this is a terrible decision. It's just a tough bet, because I mean, you're betting on something that's like 40% sure. Okay,
I would say this.
I'm just saying I'd have the conversation. I would call a couple teams and be like, hey, what would you think? Like, what are we talking about here? I would have a call. I would accept calls.
Well, I'll say this. Well, he signed his extension over the summer, so he's already.
Oh yeah,
paid.
he did sign his. Oh, sorry, he did sign his extension. I completely forgot about that. Yeah, I would still, I would have a call. I would be accepting calls, and I would maybe be giving some out. I really would.
Well, I would say a couple things to that. One, Embiid was very often injured early in his career, much like Zion. And he's turned it around almost 100% as far as his availability. He still gets injured here and there, but he doesn't get the serious injury, I don't know.
Who did you say, sorry?
I was saying how Embiid early in his career was often injured, and they even had incentives in his first extension, like you can earn up to this so long as you're on the court. So it was a true problem with Embiid those first 3-4 seasons. And he's turned it around 100%, I would say. He's available. He's not getting serious injuries. He's not missing good chunks of the season, So you have some hope there if you're New Orleans. I would also say I'm not there yet to where I would trade him, this and that, or I'm out on him being a franchise guy, this and that, yet. I want to see they'll be in the play-in game, sorry. I would assume he's back by at least the play-in season. Let's say they're, in the 7 to 10 range. If they get to the 6, though, if they're a guaranteed playoff spot, right? Let's say they get up to the 6, and maybe Zion doesn't get back in the regular season, but I would hope by then he would be back for the playoffs, right? So if they get into the playoffs, what's a playoff run look like for him? Can he make it all the way through? If he can't, if he gets injured in the playoffs, he comes back, let's say, the end of March or beginning of April, right? And he does get some games in at the regular season. And then comes back, he's playing in the playoffs. If he can't make it through the playoffs and he, maybe starts next season late because he got injured, or maybe they don't make the playoffs and we don't see Zion again, or maybe we see him a little bit this year, but next year he also starts off injured, or he gets a major injury or a long duration injury early on in the season, like, before the All-Star break, or multiple, like this year in this case, where he's had multiple stretches of like 2 or 3 weeks being out, then I'm probably out on him. So I got about anywhere from 4 to 12 months left with Zion, depending.
Okay.
Depending on how.
And that's
like,
more than fair.
If he comes back and he can put together a playoff run, I think it's fair to give him that. But will he even
more
come
than
back?
Fair.
Like you said, I don't know how.
Will he come back?
I've never seen a guy get setbacks the way he does. Even AD, even Kawhi.
He's always getting set. He always seems to get setbacks. If he has a 6-week injury, you can book it's going to be 10 plus.
Zion might be the street clothes. And how much, I don't think it's a Ben Simmons situation where he doesn't want to come back, but I would wonder why the hell it happens so much with Zion, But he does seem to play hard when he's on the court, but yeah, I don't
absolutely.
know. It's just one of those things, because we talk about hype. He's probably the most hyped American prospect since LeBron, which, the hype pales in comparison, but it's got to be the most hyped. We watched him in 7th and 8th grade on Instagram doing shit that NBA players were doing, you know what I mean? So, yeah he's him for a reason, and we just haven't seen it.
And maybe trading him a year too early instead of a year too late, but I would
maybe.
I'm not actively shopping him. Like, I'm not saying like Zion's on the trade block, but if I have some packages I'm looking at, like, yeah, I would look into it. If you hear some murmurs like, okay, this guy's not happy here, like, this is not the case at all. But just say, like, I know last year there was a comment, like, say Jaylen Brown's available, plus some things else, I would call the Celtics. I would see. At least Jaylen Brown I know is going to play, be there, want to be there, and you see what you can do, build around, like someone like that, then yeah, I'm picking up the phone. At least having a call.
All right.
I mean, others might not, but like that's me. You'd have to get the right person, though. I'm not just going to pick it up and be like, oh, hey, like, I'm not going to take even like a Drew Holiday or something like that. Like, I need a guy with star potential. And like, I think Jaylen Brown's that kind of guy who obviously is clearly a star, but he's even got like borderline superstar potential. Like, he's got things he's add to his game a little bit, but he can pretty much get there. Those kind of guys, I would take a call on.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the question I was not expecting at all, but I liked it.
For sure. I don't really got much else to add as far as All-Star Weekend or the second half of the NBA season, but we will be back later in the week, maybe with a different sport to talk about. But we will certainly be talking almost too much NBA down the stretch here. I cannot wait to see what the season brings us. Cannot wait to see what the top contenders do. I hope there's no major injury that happens down the stretch here for any of these teams. I really hope everyone's at their full strength. We shall see. There always seems to be a team around this time, whether it's the East or the West, that just surges into the picture that we weren't even talking about. Maybe that could be OKC. Who knows? Who knows? I would be very interested to hear or see.
Yes.
So, yeah, I can't wait for this part of the season. The NBA season officially starts now. It seems like Thursday will be the opening games after the break. So, yeah, I can't wait. Trade deadline's behind us. All-Star Weekend's behind us. Now it's time to separate the men from the boys as far as the season goes.
It's just basketball now. Just basketball.
So we hope. No more load management. I hope. We'll see. But
I hope not. Just competitive basketball now.
And our fantasy season. Our fantasy season's down to the nitty-gritty. You're kind of out of it. You're literally in last, and you're like the only one who's not in the mix. Injury bug hurt you.
I'm out.
But the other 9 of us, we're all in the mix. I think I'm in 4th place right now, and I think I could fall out if I lost badly like the next 2 weeks, because I think it's 2 more weeks and then we're in the playoffs. But yeah, that one's going to be in the mix. And Nate put on a Hall of Fame performance, as he usually does when we all get together. Nate was top tier hilarious. I think I had a headache from laughing so much. Shouts to you, Big Nate. Hopefully we can get Nate on here. Nate Kennison, Big Nate, Nate Dogg, aka
Definitely.
So many AKAs for Nate. His game's kind of like Jokic. I'll give him that. Nate can hoop. Nate can hoop. Let me give Nate
Yes, he
his
can.
props. But yeah, I hope we can get Nate on because there's so many different topics we could throw at Nate, and he would be able to freestyle off any one of them for sure. He would be very entertaining, and I think our viewers and listeners would love it. But Keenan, it was great talking to you. We will be back very soon. Enjoy your little mini vacation.
Will do.
And what is it? What'd you say? It's not Fort Myers, right?
4 miles. Yep.
Dope. Tell Danny I said hello. Warner Brothas
Will do.
podcast. We'll be back very soon. We're out of here.